after the birth, I didn't have any problems either. I breastfed and started on Rebif interferon. Daisy was born April 2003, and I started interferon February 2004.
Mm-hmm. And did that help?
Well, I didn't have any clinical relapses for the following 6 years, even 8 actually. There was still a bit of progression going on that came up in the various scans, but I had no clinical relapses. After that, because I had problems with the white blood counts, and at a certain stage, a neurologist decided to take me off Rebif and put me on Copaxone, and all hell happened. I had like 4 back-to-back relapses.
Oh.
Which is when I actually started looking at LDN.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I am now back on Rebif because I changed neuro, who said, no, we're going to try it again.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the period in which I kind of discovered about LDN.
And were you able to get it in Italy?
Yes. Now it was very interesting actually, because initially, obviously, when you start looking at things about LDN, which I didn't find the research trust straight away. I'm not sure exactly. I might have found it via other forums and stuff. And in Italy, it's very much associated with the drug addict side of naltrexone. Because they have huge problems with drug addiction in Italy. And so, I'm not sure why, but I think they're less open-minded even about drugs in general, yeah? You know, they don't seem to distinguish even between cannabis and heroin. So you can imagine when you're talking about taking a medicine that's used for drug addicts. But I actually didn't have any problem getting my GP to write me on a piece of white paper, basically, the prescription. I don't think she even knew very much about it. She just basically was happy to prescribe it. And I found via the LDN, I think it's .com, is it? The US
.org.
based, yeah. They had a link, I think, if I'm remembering it rightly, there's an Italian pharmacist, a compound pharmacist, is that what they're called?
Yes.
Who's up in the north of Italy, Turin, who works with one of the big MS hospitals, that side, who produce it, and they actually send it to me incredibly cheaply. I was so surprised because Italy is extremely expensive. Anything you get from a chemist is, you know, even paracetamol over here, you know, sort of £6, whereas in England it'd be 16p. I spend €30, including postage, for 5 little bottles. So basically about a 3-month supply, and that's delivered to my house. So I'm extremely happy about that.
I bet.
Because I spend much more on evening primrose oil.
So, did you have any initial side effects when you started
Well,
LDN?
the very initial ones were, I do have quite vivid dreams. Initially, sleep was not brilliant, but I'm not a very good sleeper anyway. And a tiny bit of constipation right at the start, but that was sorted immediately. I don't seem to be able to get much over 2 ml. I started to get quite a bit of pain in my leg. And in fact, Derek on the forum, the LDN Research Trust forum, suggested maybe reducing the dose to see, and it did seem to coincide with the leg not hurting. So I haven't been able to get beyond 2 ml yet.
Right.
But, you know,
Have you noticed any improvements?
the improvement which I would say definite is my outlook, my mental outlook. It's made me a lot more positive, because I was in a very dark place. I'd got myself into a very dark place, and I'd kind of stopped thinking about the future in any kind of positive terms, you know. And in fact, there'd been some very dark moments indeed. And I don't think it's one. I think probably because I felt I was really doing something for myself by making the choice of taking LDN, which neurologists over here obviously tend to. They'll say, "Well, do what you want," but we don't give it any credibility there, really.
Yep.
Your average neurologist. So I was quite pleased because I felt I was getting a bit more. I was being more self-assertive. I was getting a bit fed up of being a piece of meat, being prodded about, you know. I'm not a very good patient, I don't think.
And how did it affect you emotionally, being told you'd got MS?
Well, I must admit, because I'd very, I don't know if it coincides with the first symptoms I had, you know, if MS is a result of emotional distress. But in the months preceding the first symptoms of MS, I lost a very dear friend who was very young. He had cancer and died in the space of 6 months. And I also had a fairly big, scary relationship. The person I was with turned very strange. And so I was under huge emotional stress. And when I was told I had MS, it really didn't seem such a bad deal compared to the horrendous terminal cancer my friend had had, if you see what I mean.
Yes, I do.
So in a way, I was kind of lucky that I'd had that experience very, very recently, because it was like, okay, it's MS, but you know, of all the awful things that could happen, this probably isn't the worst, you know. And I was very, very aware of that. And then, of course, I had the incredible present of Daisy.
Yes.
I don't believe in God, but I do remember saying thanks anyway. I felt extremely fortunate, and I still do, because she was already there, Linda.
Yes.
You know, she was already there. I didn't need to. The only thing I had to do was to have her, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
And love her. And I think probably if I'd already had the diagnosis and then come to thinking, shall I have a child, that would have been really, really difficult. Really difficult. And I don't know. I certainly wasn't in the kind of relationship where I would have been able to have relied on the other person to say, yeah, let's go for it. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So I had Daisy, you know, I had the pregnancy, I had all sorts of things to be getting on with. So for the worst moments for me were when Daisy was getting older and probably didn't need so much attention, and I'd kept all the monsters locked up, and they started coming out, and especially when I had the relapses, the back-to-back relapses, that was when I really hit the floor. That was hard. Because it's kind of, you know, when you've got relapsing and remitting, all the time you're remitting, it's quite easy to, especially if you haven't had very many relapses, and then they suddenly come and it hits home.
Yes. Lets
And
you know it's there.
Sorry?
It lets you know it's there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And because Daisy suffered a lot seeing Mummy, you know, and so seeing the impact on Daisy was very difficult, you know, because no parent wants that, you know.
So what did you notice with LDN after you've been taking it a while?
LDN gave me pretty quickly, as far as just mental outlook, it gave me the feeling that it helped me get things back into perspective a bit. Because I'd lost that. Initially, I'd had it so clearly because I'd lost a dear friend, and it was so clear to me that MS was not the worst, was not the shortest straw. And then I'd got into a situation after many years that it was looking like one of the shortest straws, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And I guess I was kind of feeling that it was awful. And LDN just, it's minimal, it's a very subtle thing, because you're not euphoric, or, it's not like you're high or anything. It just gave me the feeling that, okay, even when it's bad, you're going to be okay. And I'd lost that. And so I'm extremely grateful for, obviously I'd read, as you know very well, Louise, I can't remember her surname, Louise's entries to the forum.
Yes.
Which are obviously extremely positive. I can't say I've had anything that that much to write home about, in terms of physical improvement. But the amount it's helped me mentally, it's just amazing, the difference it's made to me. I feel a happier person. I feel, I'm able to be more positive for everyone, and that's important too. Because if other people who care about you see you being positive, that helps them.
Yes.
As well as helping myself.
So what would you say to other people who are contemplating trying LDN?
Absolutely try it, because there is really nothing to lose. There is nothing to lose, and I was so delighted when I found out that there was no conflict with the Rebif, you see, because I tried it when I was on Copaxone, because I thought, God, everyone says with Copaxone there's no problems with compatibility. When then I had changed neurologists, they said let's get back to Rebif, because Rebif had seemed to block at least the clinical relapses. I thought, God, I really would like to go back on Rebif, but I really don't want to lose the benefits of LDN, because on Rebif you can be a real miserable person, because it can really depress people. I think all the beta interferons can. And so when I found out, there was quite a lot of support from people, especially the things that Tom Gilhooly has written. Is it Tom?
Yes.
That he would definitely go for it, and the pharmacist was also positive. I was absolutely delighted that you can also try. Even people doing Sibari use it, for Christ's sake, And I just liked very much the mechanism, what it was, the science behind it.
Yes.
The idea that it was trying to regulate the immune system rather than shutting it off. I liked the idea of that. And also because I felt very much there could be a connection between the extreme emotional distress that I'd had leading up to the MS setting off. I felt, God, if I'm a happier person, I'm sure that my physical well-being will improve.